Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone on this Wednesday. Hope you brought a jacket outside. Feels a little bit chilly today. Titans back on the practice field. College football teams left out in the cold. According to the college football playoff rankings release last night, undefeated Oregon holds serve at number 1. And you work your way through the usual suspects with Ohio State at 2, with Texas at 3, Penn State 4. Indiana on a bye still gets to be the 5th team in the college football playoff rankings. Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee at 11 now. And according to the committee, the first team out in these third edition college football playoff rankings, followed by Boise State, who would be the projected number 4 seed at 9-1. BYU slides to 14, but is still projected as the 12 seed at this point. As you look at the way that these things work through the college football schedule, and definitely expected to be upended yet again when we get through another weekend of college football, with Indiana and Ohio State probably being the biggest one outside of Notre Dame and Army, which we also talked about earlier in the week. I feel like did you watch Dan Mullen's appearance on the Pat McAfee show?
Yes.
Did you see what he said about Tennessee fans?
Yes.
So it wasn't quite the nuclear reaction that Mullen predicted, but Vols fans taking some issue with the way that things worked themselves out.
I don't think so. I haven't seen any Tennessee fans complaining about landing at 11.
I wonder if that's just like my For You page.
You're on Twitter.
You know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Because I hate the way that Twitter has reorganized how your timeline appears. Instead of chronologically, it just grabs a bunch of random things that may be from 2 days ago and shows them to you. But there was a lot of Vol angst on my Twitter, whether it was my For You page or my mentions, one way or the other. I don't think it would have been my mentions, but either way.
Well, Dan Mullen said on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, I think Tennessee's going to be out tonight and BYU might stay in. Well, of course BYU was going to stay in. There had to be a Big 12 team in. BYU's out of the top 12, but Tennessee, even though they're at 11, is the first team out because auto bids are a thing, and the highest ranked Big 12 team, no matter where they rank, will be in the playoff field. So I didn't understand Dan Mullen acting like that was going to be some sort, like was BYU supposed to drop all the way down below Colorado? That would have been a very drastic drop. Colorado at 17, BYU at 6.
Well, you're leaving out the part of the Mullen quote that I'm talking about. I think Tennessee is the team that's going to be their fan base, on Old Rocky Top is going to go ballistic.
Yeah, he said that, but I didn't understand his reasoning that Tennessee fans would go ballistic because BYU would stay in the playoff field. No, that's how this works. The Big 12 gets a team in no matter what. So, no, for everything that I had seen, Tennessee fans were like, okay, 11, we can live with that. Every week this season, a team in the top 10 has lost. So if that trend continues, then it's a good trend for Tennessee, obviously, understanding the Vols would have to win out, and that Vanderbilt win could carry some weight. Style points will matter, all of those things. But now you only need maybe 1 or 2 things to happen instead of a long list of we need all of these things to happen. Tennessee's not sitting there at 13 facing this uphill climb. They're right there on the cusp, on the bubble. They were always going to be behind BYU in terms of the bracket itself. The fact that they're ranked ahead of BYU, that is a good sign. But yeah, you have to have a Big 12 team in. That's how this works, Dan Mullen.
615-737-1045, the number if you would like to weigh in on the college football playoff rankings. You also have the F&M Bank chat at your disposal. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can interact there if you're so inclined. So we'll get to the rooting guide for Vols fans a little later, what the Vols need to happen at this point. We're also going to cover some ground related to the college football playoff with the SEC observations later in the show. Jackson, are there things to give away that I can tease for 11 o'clock?
There are 2 tickets to see Jelly Roll next week.
Oh, look at this. Our on-air threats may have worked, or is that just happenstance? Let me at least believe that my threats worked.
Not now. Don't call down.
Not yet. At 11 o'clock, when you tell us what the dumbest thing in sports this week is, and we'll also mix in a little Titans talk as well. Do you want to talk about Joe Galloway?
No.
Do you want to save it?
Yeah, we have the dumbest thing in sports coming up in an
that's
hour.
just for the dumbest thing in sports this week?
Yes. I don't know what the biggest... I don't think there is one thing people are fuming about today.
Not necessarily.
I don't have an issue with yesterday's rankings. I know people are worked up about Texas being number 3. I think Texas is one of the 3 best teams in the country. And the thing that people are doing, I think there's a false equivalency happening where they're saying, well, imagine if Indiana had the Michigan helmet, right? They're putting up Indiana's undefeated start, 10-0 start, next to Michigan's 10-0 start last year. And Georgia's 10-0 start last year. And those obviously were top 3 teams with that similar resume. But we also knew about those programs. Like Michigan and Georgia had been in the playoff year over year.
Yep.
And I understand it's about what you do this year, but there can still be an element of, okay, this is all very new, Indiana. So prove to us that you do belong in this conversation. Unlike Michigan and Georgia, which have proven year over year, they have the talent level, the coaching. They are the type of program that deserve to be in that conversation. So I don't like just blindly putting up, well, look at Michigan's resume last year next to Indiana's. Why isn't Indiana ranked higher the way Michigan was last year? No, because we know Michigan to be a contender. We don't know that about Indiana. This is all very shock and awe surprising right now. We have no idea what Indiana truly is. And maybe we'll find out on Saturday.
So, unsurprisingly, the SEC and the Big Ten own, 8 of the top 12 spots at this point with Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and Alabama. But that's, what we expected, and that should hold serve. Maybe there'll be some things that rankle people along the way just for the sake of the television product, but that's what it is. And then Boise State, the clear group of 5 leader right now as the number 12 team in the country. If that holds through the selection day, then they would have the same seed and wouldn't have to displace the committee's 12th ranked team to make room for the 5th highest ranked conference champion. So those are the way that things stand right now. And for the most part, I feel like there's some level of acceptance now that we're through the initial, intrigue of the college football playoff rankings, and then it's followed up by something that's going to piss you off in the second edition of the college football playoff rankings. I feel like there's people who are just saying, whatever, the committee's going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get upset about it. I'm just going to play this thing out, and I'll take the rankings as we go. And then there are still some people who are going to be bothered by things like you mentioned, Texas being ranked number 3 and debating the quality of losses. Vols fans, I do think, are going to nitpick what everybody or at least what Ward Manuel says on the committee chair, as many fan bases will do that are involved in this thing. I don't think that's specific to Vols fans, but I do think I saw a fair amount of that last night, which if you want to hyper scrutinize what Ward Manuel says, good on you. I don't care.
Well, and he shouldn't have mentioned Mercer, right? He made the mistake.
That's right.
Even in
That's
passing.
the thing that I saw Vols fans talking about. Really? Alabama's win over Mercer?
Like, Ward, don't even bring that up. You know what that reaction is going to be. He shouldn't have done that. I have no problem with Bama being ranked 7th. I have no problem with it. Everybody's upset because Bama jumped Miami. Miami doesn't have a ranked win this season. And they lost to Georgia Tech, which is of almost the exact same caliber as Bama's loss to Vanderbilt. Georgia Tech and Vandy both 6-4. So I know Bama jumped 3 spots after beating Mercer, but in principle, I don't have this huge problem with them being 7th. They're also playing arguably the best football right now of any of those 4-loss SEC teams in that grouping between Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Ole Miss.
It feels like every time Ward Manuel talks, he throws every bit of media training he's had out the window.
That is interesting.
He is one of the athletic directors of one of the most famous institutions in the country. And yet he continues to say things like, Alabama's win over Mercer is why we decided to move them up.
No, that's not what he said. He did not say
I'm paraphrasing.
Alabama's win. Yeah, you sure are, but that's definitely
that's
not
a bit of a leap. But you know what? That's how Jackson is probably indicative of a portion of the population who heard Ward Manuel say one thing and processed it.
It was blind rage at that point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you are representative. But no, I mean, come on. You're speaking to a good portion of the audience, I'm sure, because I saw plenty of people rage tweeting through Ward Manuel's at least offering of Mercer as some kind of quality win on the Alabama schedule.
Here's the question to Ward Manuel. There's 4. Well, you know what? Look,
save it.
Let's tell you what Ward Manuel actually said about why Tennessee is the 4th out of those 4 two-loss SEC teams.
We can also take your phone calls, 615-737-1045. Some people have already decided that they want to chime in on the Vol, so we'll do that coming up next.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Speaking of which, today's the deadline, yes, for the Thanksgiving Day orders, Lucas, if I'm not mistaken. Today is the day.
It is the last day.
Do not want to risk burning down your home by attempting to fry a turkey. Maybe you're trying to prove yourself to your family. Maybe you're trying to, try something new. Don't, keep it simple, stupid. Call Hattie B's because they will put together your Thanksgiving feast, including your fried turkey. It's not hot turkey. It is simply a fried turkey done by the professionals at Hattie B's, including all manner of sides like.
Oh, my goodness. The whipped potatoes, the Bishop's carrot souffle from Bishop's Meat and 3.
So good.
All handmade, in-house, here in Nashville. And then Hattie B's has some upgraded additions in there. Cheesy hot chicken dip, amazing desserts. Think about all the time that you would have to spend going up and down the aisles grocery shopping for your Thanksgiving dinner. All the scrambling around, the stress in the kitchen, yelling at your family to help you with something when, your brother or your son just wants to sit on the couch like me watching Tommy DeVito play against Cooper Rush on a Thanksgiving Day game. Yeah, great for those folks that do Thanksgiving lunch and not dinner because
that spoil Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I know, right? That post-Thanksgiving lunch nap while it's DeVito versus Cooper Rush is going to hit. But all the time you can save, all the stress you can save by just going to HattieB.com and letting them do it for you. And today is the last day to do that for your Thanksgiving.
Before we hear Ward Manuel's explanation on where the Vols landed in the college football playoff and why they are stacked the way that they are stacked in particular, and take your phone calls on the college football playoff rankings, I don't think I've ever grocery shopped before Thanksgiving. I bet that's hell. I bet that's awful. I cannot imagine what kind of stress that would put on you. That alone, not even the cooking, the stress of the... Do you get stressed in the grocery store?
I enjoy grocery shopping.
I do too, but there are if I'm not in my grocery store, and I don't know where things are,
sure,
there's a degree of stress there that I don't enjoy.
Oh, I hate a packed grocery store. Ugh. I hate walking into a grocery store and it's just bustling with people. I just want to turn around and walk out. So, yeah, no need. Just let Hattie B's do it.
615-737-1045, the number. All right, what did Ward Manuel say about the way that they have, specific to Tennessee, the way that they have these things stacked?
So, question to CFP Chair Ward Manuel. There are 4 SEC teams, all 8-2, that have beaten each other head-to-head. Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee. The question is about Tennessee, who is 4th out of those 4, coming in at 11 last night. What is the weak point the committee thinks is in Tennessee's resume that they would be 4th of those 4 teams? Answer from Ward Manuel. Well, 1, they just had a loss to Georgia, and they had the loss at Arkansas. It's really splitting hairs. They have great offense, great defense. They play hard. The committee just had a hard time. You're talking about 4 really good teams when you look at those 4. He said, I think the committee, we debated it, as I said earlier, quite a bit as it came down to how we saw those teams, but they have beaten each other at different times. So we have to look at Alabama, the last 3 games, particularly the 2 before they played Mercer. They won in dominant fashion, and we were really impressed with their win at LSU 2 weeks ago. It is close. There's a lot of conversations. We'll continue to monitor the performance of all these teams as the season progresses towards the end. So no, Bama didn't go up to 7 because they beat Mercer. Bama went up to 7 because they are arguably playing the best football out of those teams. You can make an argument for Ole Miss as well. They have a much worse loss than Alabama. So Alabama has a better overall resume for the most part than those teams, and they beat Georgia head-to-head.
I don't love can you read me the part about the committee just having a hard time again? That sentence?
He said, the committee just had a hard time. You're talking about 4 really good teams when you look at Bama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Tennessee. As we debated it, quite a bit came down to how we saw those teams, but they have beaten each other at different times. So he points out to Alabama in the last 3 games.
Okay. That, I don't want to say it softens the blow a little bit, but I would also struggle, with those 4 teams specifically, because of what Ole Miss showed against Georgia and then what Georgia did to Tennessee. It's not cut and dry. Let's at least give them some level of, I'm not going to, give them a ton of grace here. But I do think that there are some problem-solving situations that they have in front of them. Now, whether they're equipped to properly solve these problems is an entirely different discussion that we you can question on a weekly basis, it would seem. But I don't necessarily begrudge him the line about, well, the committee just had a hard time sussing through the times that these teams played or had the head-to-heads and where they are now and the quality of opponents. I do think that that's a reasonable explanation. Reasonable. Maybe you don't think so.
It's hard because when do you bring up head-to-head? Head-to-head is not the end-all, be-all. Nope. It has never been for the committee. It's a factor. Georgia is the only one of those four teams that does not have a bad loss. The only one, right? And
Ole Miss is not a bad team to lose to, but Georgia's performance in the Ole Miss loss would be considered bad.
It matters. It was a bad performance on the road against the team that people are looking at Ole Miss and saying they could make a run at this entire thing, at a national championship. Their other loss is obviously to Alabama, which they made a thriller, which they made the game of the year in college football, despite the early deficit. And they have got the win at Texas and at home against Tennessee. So Georgia has those two incredibly impressive wins and the two best losses of those two lost teams. So you can make a great argument that Georgia could be at the top of this heap. But Bama and Ole Miss beat Georgia, so they're kind of nudged above them. And then Tennessee fans are over here saying, wait a minute, but we beat Bama. So head-to-head doesn't matter there, but you had the loss to Arkansas. Wait, but Bama has the loss to Vanderbilt. See where I'm getting at? It is splitting hairs, so I don't envy the job of the committee, and I understand why they place heavy emphasis on what has been happening over the course of the last 3 weeks.
Well, and if you're somebody, because this comment was made by Taylor on YouTube in the F&M Bank chat that I like, if you're somebody who takes issue with where Tennessee is being put at this point, they had the ability to control this, right? The offensive slump that they experienced, the struggles that Nico and Heupel and the collective of the offense went through could have, even if they'd have lost at Arkansas, right? I mean, if they had scored with any kind of consistency, fair to expect that they would not have lost at Arkansas because Arkansas played a hell of a game defensively and shut down the Tennessee offense, and it started to expose bigger issues that played itself out there for a couple of weeks afterwards. Taylor says, if Tennessee's offense hadn't no-showed for like 3 or 4 straight first halves, they probably wouldn't be in this position, which I think is the most nuanced school of thought about, well, they're sliding Tennessee. Well, that's recency bias based on what the Vols were a month ago.
Yep.
Maybe a little more than a month ago.
Georgia lost by 18 on the road to Ole Miss, and the committee responded by dropping them 9 spots. What Georgia do? They got right. Carson Beck had his best performance of the year. They beat Tennessee by 2 scores, and they're right back into the bracket. Tennessee dropped only 4 spots after that loss against Georgia. So there is a path forward for Tennessee, but I have no issue here. And people are really upset about Texas at 3, and I get it. They don't have any impressive wins. They have the one loss to Georgia. Tennessee, I will say, was more competitive against Georgia than Texas was. I know the Texas whittled that down to a 15-point margin, whatever it was, but it was 17-0, 23-0 at halftime. I mean, Georgia just dominated that first half, and Texas had to play catch-up. Never really felt like they were truly in that game meaningfully. So, but I don't have a problem with Texas there at 3 because Texas was in the playoff last year. They returned a lot of that team. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I know what Texas is as a program. I think they're one of the 3 best teams in the country.
Certainly trust their coaching staff.
With all that said, if Texas loses to Texas A&M, I think they should absolutely not be in the playoff. Because then at that point, what do you have to hang your hat on? Nothing. So I'm okay with Texas being there at 3 because they're going to have an opportunity. If they beat Texas A&M and go 11-1 and they're in the SEC championship, of course they're in the playoff, right? There's nothing you can argue at that point. But if they lose to A&M, miss the SEC championship, and are a 2-loss team with 0 quality wins, then absolutely they should not be in there. But we're not at that point yet.
Before we talk about the rooting guide now moving forward for Tennessee, have you... I mean, I know these hypotheticals are tough to entertain until we actually get to the playoff and we see these things play out in real time. Is there any school of thought? We talk about how chaotic college football is this year, the way that the landscape generally, right? It's the perfect storm of a combination of things. It's the 12-team playoff. It's the transfer portal. It's name, image, and likeness money that fuels a lot of the movement that you're seeing around the sport of college football. And you're seeing an increased, not outright parity, of course, but you're seeing an increased level of parity across the sport regardless of what conference that you're looking at. And the SEC has always been the best conference in college football. And I'm wondering now, and, we'll only have to wonder for so much longer because we'll see some of these things play itself out in the playoff. I'm wondering now if the Big Ten hasn't at least gained some ground in that direction to where the quality of the SEC is more top to bottom, where you don't have any one program dominating at the top of this thing with Georgia and Alabama. Now Tennessee and Ole Miss have caused some headaches, for lack of a better term. Texas being in the SEC now and carrying their weight the way that many people looked at Texas and laughed a little bit and be like, oh, wait till they get to the SEC. No, they've done well. I know that you can question their schedule and the quality of their wins, but I'm looking at the Big Ten specifically, and the group of 5 teams. Like if Army played in the SEC or the Big Ten, they get waxed. Like we get this, or maybe not waxed on a weekly basis, but they would not have the record that they obviously do now playing their current schedule. I wonder if the Big Ten isn't gaining some ground in that direction, where the SEC would still be regarded as the deepest conference and the best conference. But I don't know. I think that there is at least reason to question some of that now. How sustainable it is moving forward is going to be a fascinating discussion, which is why I love the 12-team playoff, and I love the idea of home playoff games on these college campuses, because it could be tough for, I know these things have changed now with the seeding, the way that they've worked out, right? Texas would host Alabama, if I'm looking at this thing correctly. Indiana, would Tennessee host Indiana right now in the first round?
No, Tennessee is the first team out.
Okay, that's right. All right, I'm looking at a dated college football playoff bracket, but still, you understand my point.
Well, I would disagree because Indiana is sitting there at 10-0 in the Big Ten. Think about that. A Big Ten team at 10-0, and we're saying
one of two.
They have not played anybody because they have managed to play 7 of the 8 worst teams in the Big Ten, and they are going to play the worst team in the Big Ten when they play Purdue at the end of the season. It has not done Indiana any favors that USC has been awful, that Washington has not been good. Like, looking ahead at Indiana's schedule before the season, you thought, oh, they're playing the national runner-up and the defending national champions in Washington and Michigan. Oh, and they're playing USC with Lincoln Riley. They have not played USC. My mistake. USC, still not a good Big Ten team this year where we thought they might be. But the point is, you looked at Indiana's schedule, they'll play a resurgent Nebraska, and none of those games that would have propped up their strength of schedule have done that because those teams have been greatly disappointing this year. Nebraska bowl eligible team, Matt Rule's doing a nice job, but it means something how Indiana is just destroying these teams. Okay. That means something. But it does say something about the Big Ten that a team can be 10-0 in that conference, and we can look at it and say, oh, they haven't beaten anybody, and they'll get their chance on Saturday.
I just wonder, I wonder how much the college football playoff just generally could change those narratives, right? Because, so now I've got the updated 12-team bracket in front of me where Ohio State would host BYU, where Notre Dame would host Alabama, where Penn State would host Georgia, and Indiana would host Ole Miss in the first round of this thing. If Ole Miss, let's say it holds serve, all right? Ole Miss goes to Bloomington, Indiana in December, late December. That's an entirely different circumstance than that kind of team is used to playing. If Indiana was to beat Ole Miss at home, because it's tough to not just travel, but also to play outdoors in that environment in Bloomington, Indiana, where it's probably going to be negative 12 degrees. Like, that's an entirely different set of circumstances than Ole Miss has ever faced. I don't know that it would diminish Ole Miss as a team or make the argument that much greater for now Indiana has played somebody and beaten them in a hypothetical where Indiana would win that game. But I wonder how much those narratives would change based on who's hosting these home playoff games and how much just environment factors in that's different from what the college football playoff teams or what teams in certain part of the countries are accustomed to playing in.
Ole Miss, I think, would be a double-digit favorite over Indiana.
I agree.
And it would depend on what Indiana does against Ohio State. But it's almost wasted breath to talk about those matchups like if it holds serve. It's not going to hold serve because Indiana's either going to lose to Ohio State and drop or beat Ohio State and not be 5 anymore, right? And who knows where Ole Miss is going to be when there's still games to play. So I understand what we're doing in terms of, well, Tennessee right now is the first team out. I don't really care about the bracket and what the matchups look like right now. That's all going to be scrambled all over the place. I care about where teams currently stand in terms of what they have to do, what else they need to happen with help around the country. But that's one thing that's not going to hold serve, because no matter what happens, Indiana's not just going to stand pat at 5, right? They beat Ohio State, they lose to Ohio State. They're not just going to sit there at 5 either way.
Right. I'm saying an SEC team, maybe I shouldn't put names on it, an SEC team going to a Big Ten stadium, playing in the elements, and changing the narrative about, well, yeah, if you drop them into the SEC, they'd be winless or something like that. The way that a lot of years that we've talked about Big Ten teams, are they actually the same quality of their SEC counterparts?
Yeah.
Or are they bit fraudulent based on the conference that they play in? That's all I'm saying.
We'll
Maybe
get to
Indiana,
find out.
Ole Miss was a bad example.
We'll get to find out. I mean, we've gotten this in bowl games, right? Last year, and Ole Miss and Penn State, and Ole Miss just wiped the floor with them, and I don't even want to bring up Missouri, Ohio State, because Missouri played like an eighth of Ohio State last year in that bowl game. But yeah, that is one thing that is fascinating, that we're going to get these meaningful games on campuses between SEC and Big Ten that we would not have gotten before.
615-737-1045 if you want to chime in on the college football playoff rankings, where Tennessee is stacked currently, or where any of these teams are currently ranked. Whether you agree or disagree, you are welcome to express your opinion, as many people are doing on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch right now. So in the meantime, let's do a rooting guide for Vols fans heading into, now, what are we, week 13 of the college football season, if I'm not mistaken? How should this thing, obviously they want Indiana to lose to Ohio State. That would directly impact Indiana and Tennessee. We've talked about the trapdoor that exists for Indiana. In fact, Jackson, can I hear from Felder, who was on the show yesterday, specific to Indiana's result this weekend against Ohio State, talking about things that could impact Tennessee's ability to climb back up in this thing?
I think that Indiana losing doesn't matter by how much to me. I think them losing is some sort of a validation for a lot of folks, and does open the door for an extra SEC team, or more specifically, it opens it. Like, I think them losing opens the door maybe for Penn State, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Penn State becomes a team that we absolutely have to kind of pencil in. I think they switch spots. I think that's what we're looking at. And the crazy part about all of this is, in the same state, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, again, we mentioned Florida State. They also thought the USC game at the end of the year was going to help them. And it's not. It's not going to help them at all. It's not going to do anything for them, if we're being quite honest. So we're looking at a game on Saturday night, which we would have never circled this game in August, right? We would have never circled Ohio State, Indiana as a decider, because here, Indiana wins, they're going to go play Oregon. They're going to go play Oregon. Oregon, by the way, survived against Wisconsin. And so we're going to see all that happen in the next couple of weeks. And it starts on Saturday in the Big Ten, this behemoth, what is it, 18-team league? Now we've got to figure out, what does this look like? We got to figure out their tiebreakers too. But what does this look like? Because Indiana they got Purdue left. If they finish as a one-loss team, and that one loss to Ohio State, Michigan could upset the apple cart too, right? So this is going to be really interesting to see at the end of the year, Ohio State, Indiana, in the middle of November, towards the end of November, if we're being honest, what this looks like, what they can do. And I like Kurt Cignetti, man. Like, and I'm a Cignetti fan. Like, I'm a fan of the entire family. Like, I played when I was at UNC. Frank Jr. was there.
So that is Mike Felder on the show yesterday, talking about the college football playoff bracket, essentially before the third iteration of the rankings came out. So what's the rooting guide look like?
So the question there is, how much would Indiana need to lose by? If you're a Tennessee fan, you want them to lose by as much as humanly possible, 40, 30, whatever. Because I am of the mind, if Indiana keeps it to a field goal game, they will get in. If they show they belong on the field with Ohio State, I think they'll get in.
It's a Penn State argument.
Especially
in Columbus?
Yes. Yeah. Penn State showed they belong on the field with Ohio State. They choked it away, but they showed they can be competitive and that they're a couple plays from beating Ohio State. So if Indiana shows that, I think they're in. Indiana would have to show all of us, okay, yeah, no, they don't belong with these guys for them to truly fall completely out of it. That's what Tennessee's rooting for. Also, Florida over Ole Miss. Billy Napier, Cookeville native. VFL Billy Napier over Ole Miss in the Swamp. Army over Notre Dame. Undefeated Army in South Bend this weekend. And you want Alabama to lose to Oklahoma. I know that could lessen that head-to-head, that quality win, but it gives Bama that third loss and it eliminates them. And that would move Tennessee up further into the top 12 and into the bracket in next week's ranking. So those are the main four. Ohio State destroy Indiana. Florida beat Ole Miss at home. Army upset Notre Dame on the road. And Bama lose at Oklahoma, as unlikely as that feels with the way Bama's playing and how Oklahoma's season has gone. Thing is, Tennessee may only need one of those things to happen because they are the first team out.
Speaking of college football playoff discourse, Lane Kiffin had some thoughts on how conference championships may impact the way that this thing plays out based on conversations that he's had with other coaches. We'll get to that in the SEC Observations. We will also have the dumbest thing in sports this week at 11 o'clock for your opportunity to win Jelly Roll tickets. So be tuned in then, and we'll tell you exactly how to do that. That is at 11 o'clock today. What, Jackson?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Next is the SEC Observations.
Will teams be punished for losing conference championship games by the CFP committee? Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin brought this up in a press conference the other day, and he had some very interesting things to say. Jackson? So that's Lane Kiffin expressing concern about getting to the conference championship, losing your third game, and that knocking you out as you go for the reward of getting a bye in the playoff.
So that's applicable to who? Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss.
And Texas A&M. Now,
A&M.
Tennessee has a very narrow path to the... Really, right now, if everything kind of holds serve, Texas and Bama will play each other in Atlanta. And then that would affect Bama if they were to lose that game and get their third loss. If Texas A&M beats Texas in the regular season finale and Bama wins out, which Tennessee fans don't want to happen, by the way, Texas A&M and Bama would play each other in Atlanta. And at that point, both teams would be in fear of being left out. So, CFP Chair Ward Manuel, what say you to the idea that you guys would punish teams for losing in a conference championship game? This is where we play the Ward Manual audio.
Compared against, as opposed to teams who get to sit home and wait.
Well, we have a lot of value. You know, we're not going to speculate on what will happen, but we have a lot of value of the with the teams that make a championship game. That says a lot. Playing 12 games in the season, making your championship game is a really valuable data point. Number one. Number two, we're going to evaluate the games and how teams play and the performance on the field. That's what the commissioners have asked us to do. They didn't ask us to stop right before the championship game. They asked us to rank the teams through the championship game. And I think you could see over the years how the committee has valued those championship games and who stays in and where they're ranked. But this year, we're not going to speculate. We're going to let the season play out. But I think teams who make that championship game, the committee looks at them and puts them in high esteem.
That gives me no confidence. That gives me no confidence. I understand it puts them in high esteem, but him saying, yeah, but we evaluate everything that happens through the conference championship games. I don't listen to that as a Texas A&M fan who's hoping to knock off Texas and get to Atlanta and say, oh, yeah, no, we'd be safe if we beat Texas and lost in the SEC championship. Now, A&M has no choice but to try and beat Texas because if they lose to Texas, they're out anyway. So it makes for quite the conundrum for Mike Elko, who says, what if we actually beat Texas and then lose to Bama and get left out?
There's already so much talk about November 30th. It was announced as a night game today. How do you deal with that with your guys and saying, hey, we still have something ahead of us at Auburn, or is that even a big issue with your team?
I don't think it's an issue. I think when you're in the situation we're in, it's easy to focus on the task at hand. I think those big games earlier in the year, maybe you look ahead. If we didn't have at stake what's at stake, maybe you would worry about it. I think our focus is single-handedly on on Auburn right now and locked in on what we got to get done.
That's Texas A&M head coach Mike Elko. Quite a slip of the tongue
That's
there.
a very unique SEC problem, right? because they're not having these conversations anywhere else as to how the conference championships could impact. Not really, right? This is very specific to the SEC with at least the problem that Lane Kiffin is describing. But, that's reasonable where those are the best or some of the best college football teams in the country. And you're talking about a pretty unique situation where, you could have is that a more valid complaint, for example, than what happened to Florida State last year? Why the logic behind them getting left out of the playoff?
I had no problem with them getting left out of the playoff.
I didn't either.
If they made the playoff, they would have gotten dusted in the semifinal because they didn't have their star quarterback. Like I know
they were down to their third string guy.
Yeah. I know they hate hearing that, but it's just and it sucks. It sucks because they went undefeated and won their conference and did everything.
I think they're overhearing that. I think they're currently worried about much bigger issues at Florida State.
Yeah, no doubt. Lonzo on the FNM Bank chat says BVS again. This has nothing to do with BVS. If anything, Tennessee would be a team that would stand to gain from this. If A&M had a third loss in the conference championship and that bumped 2-loss Tennessee in. So Greg Sankey would take issue with this, which is why I think no matter what, he's going to push for expansion because Sankey is a proactive, not a reactive person. So he's not going to wait for an SEC team to get left out with a scenario like this to really try and take action. Greg Sankey can see the scenarios that we're laying forth. Oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? And I think they're going to push for expansion no matter what to avoid the SEC championship game being devalued.
615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. We will get to your phone calls here in just a second, right after I remind you that 3HL tomorrow is at Buffalo Wild Wings in Hermitage for their next football feast. You can stop by for the chance to win Titans tickets and giveaways each hour thanks to Miller Lite, Kroger, and Buffalo Wild Wings. Plus, you can be a part of Slay's weekly Miller Lite Wash-Away Toast at 5 p.m. For more info, visit 1045thezone.com/TFF. Let's go to Gene up first. Hey, Gene.
Hey, guys. I just like to, I don't know if people are not talking about it, maybe because most of the people that talk about it weren't around whenever Arkansas was a member of the Southwest Conference. But Arkansas and Texas are bitter rivals. They've always been about on the same level of either Georgia, UT Florida, UT Georgia. They hate each other, and plus it's in Fayetteville, and that's a hard place to play. I don't think UT's won there a handful of times anyway, but they lost there more than they won there. So this people are overlooking it, but I would put Texas on upset alert this weekend.
It's fascinating perspective, Gene. Thank you.
They already played Arkansas, and they lost. Arkansas lost to Texas.
Talking about his perspective on Tennessee and why that might strengthen or maybe strengthen their case because Arkansas is being slighted.
Okay, he was talking. It sounded like he thought Texas plays Arkansas this weekend.
That's how the calls felt like it ended.
Texas hosts Kentucky this weekend, and that's not be quite the miracle. Would love that. Would love for that. Surely would knock Texas out, but Texas beat Arkansas by 10.
I don't disagree with what he's saying about playing in Fayetteville, though. I mean, Jackson had to tell me, I think that was the week that you were out, like how awful the Vols have had, how awful a time the Vols have had trying to beat Arkansas in Arkansas. And again, they don't play a ton of times.
And that was one thing Tennessee fans did get worked up about last night, seeing the graphic, the key wins mark under Texas, saying Vanderbilt and Arkansas.
Yeah.
And I can understand why you would get a little upset about that when that's a bad loss for Tennessee.
Let's go to Cody up next.
Hey, guys. If I believe that Texas were to lose to A&M next week and both Tennessee and Texas were to have 2 losses, I actually think that Texas has a better resume, only because Tennessee and Texas have a lot of common opponents on the schedule. And if you look at margin of victory, I know people are up in arms about Texas not having a big win, but Tennessee has won, and they've played Florida, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, Kentucky, which Texas is probably fixing to beat the brakes off of. So they've been a lot more impressive than Tennessee in a lot of these games. Plus they went to Fayetteville and beat Arkansas, which Tennessee frankly couldn't do.
Cody, you may have made a good point, but I couldn't hear half of it.
No, I heard his point. He's saying Texas has common opponents with Tennessee, and Texas handled those in a far more impressive way. I disagree. Texas beat Mississippi State 35-13. Tennessee beat Miss State 31-17 without their quarterback for the second half.
How did you hear any of that?
Texas did blow out Oklahoma by 31. Tennessee won by 10 on the road. I will give him that one. But Texas did beat Arkansas. Tennessee lost to Arkansas. And Texas did blow out Florida, but they were on their third-string quarterback. So Tennessee played Georgia more competitively than Texas played Georgia. So we can, play this game all day with basically any two teams in the field.
615-737-1045. The number coming up next. The dumbest thing in sports this week. If you have one to submit, you could win a couple of tickets to Jelly Roll's upcoming concert. That's next week, right? Next week at Bridgestone Arena for the opportunity to see Jelly. 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
11:02, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The latest college football playoff rankings came out Tuesday night. Tennessee dropped from number 7 to number 11 after the 31-17 loss to Georgia on Saturday. The Vols are the first team out as it stands today. Titans back on the practice field today, getting ready to visit the Houston Texans Sunday. Quarterback Will Levis meets with the media at 2:05 this afternoon. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Most certainly is. 615-737-1045 for the opportunity to win some Jelly Roll tickets. Give us the dumbest thing in sports this week. We'll get to yours here shortly. I don't have just one. I have 108 million dumbest things in sports this week. 108 million. That is because 108 million people tuned in across the world to watch the sham that was Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. It is the worst televised sport, quote unquote, that I have ever myself participated in. I include myself in those 108 million.
Sporting event.
It was not a sporting event. WWE is more of a sporting event than this was. Did you see our buddy Dan Lust out here doing interviews with the New York Post saying that he would fully expect a lawsuit to result from this fight because of Jake Paul's quotes after the fight, admitting to basically carrying Tyson and taking it easy on him and not wanting to hurt him too bad, or something to the effect of nobody needed to get hurt worse than they were already hurt or something like that. Like Lust fully expects there to be a lawsuit resulting from the money that was pouring in on both fighters and the fact that Jake Paul prolonged the situation because plenty of people were betting knockout in favor of Paul.
Yep.
So it's fair to expect that there will be legal ramifications from this sham. 108 million people. Shame on you. Shame on me. Shame on all of us for not being adult enough to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to do this. I'm after the 17,000th time that I had to reboot my Netflix just to get this damn thing on. 108 million people. Shameful. Should
have went to AB's Twitter.
Well, there are 3 million people watching it there.
I saw 6 when I was in there.
God. That is my dumbest thing in sports this week. I pray that we as a country learn from our mistakes. I don't know that will be the outcome of this because Jake Paul has a following that I cannot myself understand, but apparently plenty of people care about him. I hate it. It's the dumbest thing in sports this week.
I do think it's funny that most of the discourse leading up to the fight was, Mike Tyson is going to knock that beard right off of Jake Paul's face. And I get it because that's what everybody wanted to happen.
So badly.
That's what Kirby was saying with us Friday at Hattie B's in Franklin. He's saying Mike Tyson is going to destroy him.
That's right.
That was what everybody was saying. I wanted it too. But right after the fight, everybody's like, well, congrats, Jake Paul. You beat a 58-year-old. Of course you beat him. He's 58. So it was a sham. I'm with you on that. My dumbest thing in sports this week is Joey Galloway, former Ohio State wide receiver, current ESPN college football analyst, who had this to say about what Indiana should do ahead of the Ohio State matchup Saturday.
They can't go any higher. They are behind a one-loss team. They have a chance to go on the road and prove what they are. Now, honestly, if we believe in what our metrics are saying, if I'm Indiana, I don't know if I'm playing Rourke against Ohio State. We've seen what happened to Florida State last year, Jordan Travis. What could keep Indiana out of this? Getting their quarterback hurt. We've seen it happen to Florida State last year, having not played anybody.
Or losing by 30.
If you look at 3, 4, and 5, Texas, Penn State, and Indiana, they literally have played nobody between all 3 teams. The toughest team in that is Vandy. So a lot of this that we're looking at is eye test because Boog, when you look at the resumes of 3, 4, and 5, it brings back the idea of let me not play anybody and be undefeated.
Yeah.
And be in a good position.
I agree with that.
The eye test is going to matter because 3, 4, 5 have played nobody, and that includes Indiana.
Oh, Joey Galloway. Again, like Buck yesterday, a very extreme path towards making a decent point.
Oh, no.
It's like Buck saying he would take NWI over George Pickens.
That's right.
Joey Galloway saying Indiana should sit their starter against Ohio State.
I think that's worse.
I don't know, man.
I think that's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. That's my dumbest thing in sports this week.
Watching Greg McElroy drop his head into his hands on live television was excellent. And also shame on Booger McFarland for saying, I agree. No, shut up, Booger. What are you doing? Booger gets away with it because Joey Galloway is loud wrong on all of this, but Booger chirping in or chiming in the background. Yes, I agree. No, terrible. You do not encourage that kind of behavior. Jackson, what's yours?
Mine is the 14 NBA GMs who passed on Dalton Connect. Two of which passed on him twice. Last night, the Lakers' rookie guard, 37 points, 9 3-pointers, tied a rookie record, scored 22 straight for Los Angeles. Lucas's right leg show.
Idiot.
It is a show in Los Angeles, and LeBron James had this to say about those GMs after the
16
game.
GMs, by the way, not 14.
No, it's 14 because he was the 17th pick, and a couple of teams had 2 picks in the top 16.
Oh, wow. I'm an idiot. I'm the dumbest thing in sports.
Yep.
They didn't find DK. The other 16 teams f***ed it up. Did anybody watch him?
Did anybody watch him?
He goes on to say in that quote LeBron does, they just didn't F it up, talking about the Lakers front office.
Right. We didn't find it. Wasn't a diamond in the rough. It was the SEC Player of the Year.
First team All-American, runner-up for National Player of the Year.
615-737.
Did you see what he tweeted last night?
Who? Connect?
Yeah.
No.
That's probably the fake account.
Oh, never mind. That's
What
disappointing.
are you doing today?
It's been a rough couple minutes.
Rough couple minutes.
All right, let's go to the phones. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week for the opportunity to win some Jelly Roll tickets to next Tuesday's show at Bridgestone Arena? I will be in attendance. I'm excited. I know Jelly's excited. Always cool to play in front of your hometown crowd that way, so it should be a great show. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Steven up first.
Hey, what's up? My dumbest thing in sports this week got to be the Jets and the iced-out Woody Johnson. Him and Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh all sitting there together trying to build a fantasy team. They got to take their punishment for the last place on this fantasy team, and they got to take the dumbest thing in sports. Aaron Rodgers, Sauce Gardner puffing it up before the season. It's got to be a bad look. We would love to have these picks that the Jets are getting, the team we could build with this. I don't know what else more to say, but that's the dumbest thing in sports. I'll see you, Buck, and I'll see you, Jelly Roll, next week.
Well done. I like the delivery.
Good start.
The delivery, yeah. See, we need a strong performance because I'm going to be honest with you guys. You've been pretty bad lately. You've been pretty bad as at least call-in submissions lately. So Steven sets the tone. I like the delivery. I like the submission. The Jets are dumb. The Jets could make an appearance on this every week. Also, Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers for Tyrod Taylor. That is what Diana Russini is reporting last night on The Athletic.
That's called tanking.
That is actually tanking. Titan Town up next.
Buck, I love you, buddy, but the dumbest thing in sports, and maybe even the world, is definitely your take on the wide receivers with NWI versus that list of guys that you put out there, like completely insane.
Elite
and if anybody's seen it, the guy humping the guy, the undercard, the first fight of the Jake Paul Tyson, the guy humping the guy in the corner. Oh, wow, nobody's talked about that. But yes, Buck, your list has to be the dumbest take in the world.
In the world.
In the world,
In the world. Excellent submission by Titan Town.
I figured at least one person would call in with that submission.
It's a layup. Chris is next.
Hey, man, love the show. But my dumbest thing in sports has to be after the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. When Mike Tyson delivered that it's a possibility for him to get back in the ring again. That is my absolute dumbest thing in sports.
Thank you for the call, Chris. Yeah, he said did you watch any of that? He said
I turned it off as quick as I could.
He said he wanted to fight the other one.
The other Paul.
What's his name? Logan.
Logan in a wrestling. Put him in a WWE cage match.
You know what? I almost don't blame Mike though, because if he's getting $20 million to just jump around there and survive,
and have guys take it easy on him out of respect.
Yeah. Well, until there's a lawsuit, and both of them are defendants in a lawsuit that is soon to come, according to Dan Lust. But yeah, that made me sad. Just listening to Mike after that, just exhausted, his legs shaky, he's got a knee brace on. He had a bunch of health problems apparently during the training process, of course, because he's 58.
Yeah.
Trent is next.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Yo.
So my dumbest thing in sports is going to be the right tackle for the Titans. So I'm pretty sure he was warned the first time, and he goes back in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he does it 3 different times. That's got to be the dumbest thing that I've ever seen out of anybody. I mean, Dennis Daly would at least be better of lining up. He wouldn't protect for shit, but he would line up.
Oh, there it is.
Trent.
All right, let's hit that button.
He's also right. He's right. But this is FCC radio, and you can't say that.
It was 3 illegal formation. Wasn't 2 of them on Prince?
No,
or were all 3 on Prince?
All 3 on Prince. So he was warned the first time by the officiating crew was asked about this in the pool report. By the way, he may be the best option at right tackle. We're not talking about that.
He might have given you the best snaps outside of the penalties that literally took away points.
I think he gave up like 1 pressure or something like that, though he did have a touchdown called back. The way that the refs do this is they warn you after the first one, and then it's on you. So he was warned. He did it 2 more times. He negated not just a 51-yard touchdown reception by Calvin Ridley, but he also negated a first down conversion that would have been big for them in that game.
Clete Blakeman said he got warned after the game with Nick Suss. Clete Blakeman also said Mike Brown launched himself into the receiver in the end zone, which did not happen.
Believe it?
So I don't know.
You think he's a liar?
I'm just saying it's in question. Pepe Sylvia.
Houdini on YouTube. We need to get Lust back on just for fun, just to talk about some stuff. Houdini on YouTube says you gave the callers credit too early, Buck. No, you know what? That one made me laugh. Don't do it.
Oh no, they've all been good so far.
Don't do that. Do it in FCC safe fashion. But it made me laugh. Jordan is the last submission.
Hey guys, my dumbest thing in sports: a UFC prelim fight was delayed due to toenails. A doctor at Cageside wanted the ref to check one of the fighter's toenails. The ref, I'm not going to clip those now, which Joe Rogan was taken aback by this whole situation. I never seen that before. That is gross.
Toenail inspection.
Oh, no.
Is a part of the UFC, pre-fight check.
But they got to be short, I guess.
Yeah,
so you don't
they've got to be clipped, so
kick them.
You're not just out here like a bird of prey, swiping people across the face.
Literally death by 1,000 cuts
with your great toe. Blech. Oh, God. That made my stomach upset. That's a good one.
You imagine a roundhouse kick and it's just 1 cut on your cheek? What just happened?
How is personal hygiene still something that we're having to remind people of?
That's an advantage. That's nothing to do with hygiene.
No, that's hygiene. That's also...
This man was looking
a claw. That's
for
a weapon.
Exactly. This man was looking for any added advantage.
I put this person in the same category as I do that Syracuse coach that won't take a shower after he loses.
He showered last week.
This week.
I know.
Showered.
He said, who's getting washed? And then ran off into the background.
He said, winners get washed. Oh, man, those are
some good submissions.
Yeah.
Look, see what happens when we challenge you all to step up. You come through with flying colors, except for Trent, who cussed.
Yeah, he's dropped.
Can't do that. So, Steven with the Jets, Titan Town with me, Chris with Mike Tyson threatening, not just saying, but threatening to fight another Paul brother and put us all through that nonsense again. Isaiah Prince for Trent, who can't win.
He can't win.
Or Jordan with the
Wolverine feet. That's T-Man in the
talent.
You can't go in there with Wolverine feet. Got to clip those
They're
toenails.
all really good. Who are we picking?
Oh, man.
I feel like the Jets one is really good because the Jets are just a laughing stock every week. But there's only so many times that we're going to get the Wolverine feet.
I like
of the
that.
UFC
I think I like Jordan's. Yeah, because that's great. He told us, we knew the Jets were dumb. Right, we learned something with that. I did not know that about the UFC.
Steven's only mistake in this contest today was going first because he gave the rest of them the opportunity to kind of church up their submission.
But we knew the Jets were dumb. Titantown, with your take about, picking NWI over multiple elite receivers, also we already knew was incredibly dumb.
I'd do it again.
Chris had the Tyson thing. We knew about that. So, no, I think Wolverine feet wins.
All right. Congratulations to Jordan. He's going to see Jelly Roll on November the 26th at Bridgestone Arena. We will see you in the house for that show. Should be a great time. Coming up next, we will get to coaches on the hot seat. We've already had firings across the NFL. We just had the first GM get canned. But we're going to do this based on Hattie B's hot chicken levels of heat. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. That's what you get when you go to Hattie B's. You know that show, or this show, is fueled by the best hot chicken in Nashville. That is, of course, Hattie B's. So in honor of such, we've decided to turn up the heat on a couple of NFL coaches who should be feeling it right now. We've classified them into the categories of Hattie B's hot chicken heat levels. And we will go through those things here with you momentarily. 615-737-1045 is the number. Also, before I go back to the phone calls, because we've got some people that want to weigh in on the college football playoff stuff, Lucas and I were debating, because we have stopped having Titans players on because they are 2-8, and nobody wants to do those interviews at 2-8. I understand. But I think it might be worth putting it to a poll whether the audience would like it for us to have Nick Westbrook-Akina on, or at least ask for NWI.
No, let's get NWI.
Should we just do it?
Yes.
Bleep the audience, says Lucas Panzica?
No, I think the audience would love to hear from the Titans' biggest weapon at wide receiver this season.
Unquestionably. At this point. Okay. Well, then I will see if he is available when I head to the practice facility today. Let's go to Dan before we get into these hot seat conversations. Hey, Dan.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
We're great.
Good deal. Hey, I know this playoff format we have now, it's kind of like Chinese arithmetic, Russian roulette combined. And I'm wondering if maybe we should go back to the old dreaded BCS days, start over again, re-scrap it, and let's start over and have a better way of having these teams ranked. I mean, if you haven't played anybody, don't put them in the top. Let them be at the bottom and let them earn their way up.
I appreciate the call, Dan. They're never going back.
I'm with Dan. Give me a computer rather than multiple athletic directors of some of the biggest programs in the country.
Now, I don't disagree with putting, so the BCS was the computer. I don't disagree with making the BCS or the computer maybe with a couple of updates. Since it's been damn near 10 years since we did the BCS.
Yeah, like a minute. Let it restart. You know that when your computer interrupts you at the worst time, saying I'm going to restart, and you're like, no, do it tomorrow, and then you never actually do it.
Let's get the upgraded version.
Yes, let's restart.
Let's get the Model 6 or whatever it is at this point, and let's replace the entire committee with computers. I am for that. I see plenty of professions that should be left to humans being done by computers now. For example, the barista at the airport coffee shop, robot. I would prefer a human to hand me my coffee. I would prefer a computer, though, to tell me which are the top 12 teams in the country on a regular basis. But that would take away from the television show, which ESPN would never do.
Imagine, because I didn't really care about this when Iowa's AD was explaining things to us as the CFP chair. But imagine if Michigan was good this season. Imagine if Michigan was right there.
They are, according to Ward Manuel.
Oh, absolutely. Those are big wins. No, but seriously, imagine.
It's keeping me in the top 5, baby. I'll take it.
Let's say.
Big Michigan guy.
Michigan has 1 or 2 losses this season, and we're listening to the Michigan athletic director tell us why or why not Michigan should be in. Like, that is a flawed system if I've ever seen one.
Let's just go back to what we were doing, pre 2000s, and let's just end the year with a national champion being declared as opposed to anybody playing for an actual national championship.
I'm the champion. No, I am.
It's like the how many titles or how many national championships does a program claim? I think like Notre Dame has like something that they consider, or I think they qualify as like mythical national championships or something like that.
I mean, Alabama is up there with
Alabama
those.
Also
they
guilty of this.
Multiple questionable national championships. Still, that's the thing about Bama. You still have more than everybody else.
I know.
Why you got to tack on an extra 5?
Oh, because they can, or because they say they can. 615.
Like one local poll in Tuscaloosa ranked them number 1 in 1931 or something.
1045 is how you chime in. All right, we'll get to the heat levels on these coaches who could be fired, coaches who should be fired, coaches who maybe you're not thinking about might be fired in this. But I'll quickly remind you that the Two Rivers Ford Rescue Run is right around the corner this Thanksgiving morning. You can join our friends at Two Rivers Ford for the Tommy Crockett Memorial Rescue Run 5K and Family Fun Run. You can make it a family event and bring strollers, your dog, and come together to raise money for the Animal Rescue Corps. The Two Rivers Ford Tommy Crockett Memorial Rescue Run 5K and Family Fun Run Thursday, November 28th at 76 Belinda Parkway in Mount Juliet. Register now at 1045thezone.com/events. Okay, so there are 30 coaches that I have classified. Lucas has whittled his down to 12, but there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels of Hattie B's heat. Now, I think we should start at shut the cluck up, which is the highest level of heat, and work our way down from coaches who are most likely to be fired to the coaches who are the most safe. So I will ask you first, how many coaches do you have in the shut the cluck up category?
Well, let me just pose coaches to you, and we'll start with the worst teams in the NFL. And you tell me what Hattie B's heat level you'll assign to it. Shut the cluck up, damn hot, medium, all the way down to Southern, which is essentially no heat.
Okay.
Great fried chicken at Hattie B's. You just want fried chicken? You don't want any heat? Just get the Southern. Anyway, Mike McCarthy, 3-7 with the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott out for the season.
Now, this is an interesting one because he's on an expiring contract, so they technically don't have to fire him. They can just not renew his deal. But
I think we still count it.
It would be a firing.
Yes.
I put Mike McCarthy, though, at damn hot, which is the second highest heat level, not the highest heat level, because Jerry Jones has shown patience in the past with coaches that we think should absolutely have been fired. I think there was like 6 years where I thought Jason Garrett was for sure getting fired, and it just never happened. So Jerry is not the most conventional human being, you may have noticed, but I do think that this is going to be a tough sell to his fan base. I don't know that Jerry Jones would lose money appreciably if Mike McCarthy was retained, but I'm not going to put him in the highest heat level only because it's tough to predict what Jerry's going to do, truly. So I think the second highest heat level for Mike McCarthy at a record of right now 3-7.
It's fair. Jason Garrett only had one truly bad season, and it was
but they were always
4-12 in 2015, and they were fresh off a divisional game appearance, and then he got them back to the divisional game the following year. That was the only time they ever bottomed out in any way in 2015. So the playoff disappointment followed by bottoming out would make me want to lean to shut the cluck up. But I do hear what you're saying, and you're right about that.
I just don't know how to predict what Jerry's going to do.
Yes, that's true.
It would be the most predictable thing in the world for him to put curtains up to help his football team win games. But, Jerry doesn't do it.
Or just hire Deion Sanders.
That too.
Kevin Stefanski is 2-8 as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns.
I saw a tweet from a Cleveland Brown or a Cleveland sports writer, not necessarily a Brown sports writer, tweeting that the discourse on Cleveland Sports Talk Radio was that they should fire Stefanski now and promote Vrabel, which, sounds about right. I also have him in the damn hot category because if he gets fired for the owner forcing Deshaun Watson upon him, I think that is a crime. I think that Jimmy Haslam also falls into that level of unpredictability. And if they can't fire Watson, then somebody's head's got to roll. Kevin Stefanski is not in. I just don't think it's his fault. Like, I think he's a two-time coach of the year. And I know that those things don't necessarily always translate.
Kiss of death, some would say.
Yeah, no kidding. I would demote him to just hot, ! Which is the third highest heat level of Hattie B's. But I will keep him in damn hot because I think Jimmy Haslam is going to do it, even though I don't think he should.
Doug Peterson is 2-9. The Jags currently hold the number 1 pick.
Yeah, he's shut the cluck up. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he made it to Wednesday.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, after experiencing the worst margin of defeat in the history of the Jags, who have suffered many, many awful defeats in the history of their franchise. They are one of the worst franchises in the NFL perpetually. That guy, his boss, is quoted as saying this is the best Jags team ever assembled.
Oof. Ever.
Shut the cluck up for Peterson.
Breaking the rules here a little bit, but we haven't really talked about this. What about Trent Baalke?
So I saw he should be fired.
Like, how many number 1 picks is Trent Baalke going to be able?
Absolutely should be fired.
Be allowed to make.
I did see somebody giving voice to the idea that he may be able to save himself if he's packaged with Belichick because they have worked together previously, which would be crazy.
That would be something.
If he clung to the Bill Belichick life raft and saved his job that way, if I was a Jags fan, I would be sick.
Yeah.
But I agree that Trent Baalke should also be fired.
My goodness. Okay. Brian Daboll, the Giants are 2-8. They have benched Daniel Jones, not to QB2, but to QB3.
Yep.
Tommy DeVito's the starter. Drew Lock is the backup. And Brian Daboll, who also has recently won Coach of the Year.
Yeah, he is 2-8. Daboll, I have in the third highest heat level. I have him at hot. I think that benching Daniel Jones is an acknowledgement that this is not all Brian Daboll's fault. I think that they have, in New York, expressed buyer's remorse on that quarterback, not publicly, but privately to people who then made it public. And I don't, I'm not saying that Brian Daboll should or should not keep his job. I'm just saying there's reason to believe that he may not be one of these obvious shut the cluck up people.
Antonio Pierce, 2-8.
I also have him in damn hot, which is the second lowest. The only reason that I'm saying that Antonio Pierce doesn't get cleared out, because I honestly think that was one of the worst hires. And I get it, what they were trying to do. You had stars like Max Crosby publicly saying, if they don't keep this guy, I'll figure a way to get out of my contract. I think that's probably worn off because they also have 2 wins. I would put them at damn hot. I'm tempted to put him at shut the cluck up.
Mike McDaniel, the 4-6 Miami Dolphins.
I have Mike McDaniel in hot. Now they're 4-6, and they've scrounged together a couple of wins here since Tua's been back, and they look more like the Dolphins that we're accustomed to them looking at. But I think the intrigue around him has worn off with this. Oh, look at him. He's different. He's quirky. He's all these different things that every other NFL coach is not. He's also 4-6.
Yeah.
And frankly, just lucky that the concussed quarterback decided that he's going to, play this sport by his own admission until the death. So, which is just a shocking quote to read, but that's how he feels.
They have won back-to-back games.
I understand.
The schedule's lightened up, understandably, but
as we sit here heading into week 12, though, he is firmly in the hot category.
Sure. They have a great chance at a third straight win when they host the Patriots this weekend.
I got him at hot.
Matt Eberflus, 4-6 with the Bears.
Shut the cluck up.
Yeah. Already fired an OC.
Get out of here. He's got to get out of here.
Todd Bowles, 4-6 with the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to do with Bowles because Chris Godwin getting hurt matters for that offense. They've definitely leveled off since they had such a nice start to the season. And Atlanta, even though they're only 6-5, is in good position to kind of keep a hold. Although the Falcons got embarrassed this weekend. That was pretty wild.
This is year 3 for Bowles. The division is still up for grabs.
But they've won. Bowles was the coach when they won the Super Bowl, right? Am I?
No, Bowles is not a Super Bowl winning. What are you talking about?
With Brady?
Oh no, man.
No. That was
Bruce
okay.
Arians.
That's right, because I got it mixed up. So, but he's won the division.
He's won the division in each of his first 2 years,
and he's done it without Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator with Brady.
That's right. Okay, so Arians wins the Super Bowl with him, and then they have that situation where Arians essentially hands the job to Todd Bowles, who, by the way, is a solid coach. I have him here at medium. I think there's a chance, but I don't think it's an overwhelmingly good one. I do think that people don't think of Tampa Bay as winning as much as they have here in the last couple of years, and Bowles is a big part of that, both because of his defense and because he's had head coaching experience with the Jets. And if you can survive even remotely with the Jets, and he did that for a while, I do think that there's something there, but I would put him in medium right now.
He is 47-64 in his career as a head coach. I know the Jets.
The Jets are a big part of that.
That's fine.
Jets big part of that.
But that is something kind of hanging over his head. But okay.
And their defense is a mess right now. Their defense is so hurt.
Yeah.
I would give him a little bit of grace there, but I acknowledge that he is at least feeling some level of heat.
Zach Taylor's Bengals are 4-7.
I have Zach Taylor in mild. Because it's not his offense is not the problem.
His offense has been awesome.
His offense has been excellent. His quarterback has been excellent. Jamar Chase has been excellent. Zach Taylor's side of the ball is not the problem. I don't think that Lou Anarumo, their DC, gets fired. I think that their talent just fell off. Well, it's not his fault. I mean, they've lost all their good players.
Yeah, he is a good defensive coordinator.
He was talked about. He didn't really get interviews, but like he was talked about as one of those fringe. Like maybe this guy could be a coach or a head coach. I would put him at mild. In fact, I have Brian Callahan ranked hotter than Zach Taylor.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Why don't we talk about some of those first-year coaches on the other side?
That's next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, as you well know. And as a result, we have decided to classify the NFL's head coaches most likely to be fired based on Hattie B's Hot Chicken heat levels. So far, we have made it through the bulk of the... Did I have anybody in a category that you disagreed with? So just to rehash, I have in the hottest or the highest heat level, shut the cluck up, Matt Eberflus and Doug Peterson, Bears and Jags. I have in the damn hot category, Stefanski, McCarthy, and Antonio Pierce. I have in the hot category, Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins and Brian Daboll.
I think shut the cluck up is, he's gone.
Yes.
Like there is no scenario in which he comes back.
Gone.
So I think I'd put Eberflus on damn hot, though I believe he will get fired, but they could string together some wins, and they're 4-6, right? They're not bottoming out. I understand he's fired the offensive coordinator.
Isn't that the worst case scenario, though, if you're a Bears fan? Like they do just enough
go
to
7-10.
survive, yeah, and he's like, I'm back for another year, baby.
Right. But I'm saying is I don't think it's this locked in stone. Like I think McCarthy is more of a, he's gone than Eberflus.
I agree.
I understand your point about Jerry has shown leniency and patience, especially with Jason Garrett. But I think Mike McCarthy's out of there. I think he's done. So those are the only two that I would. But no, you had Stefanski at damn hot, Antonio Pierce at damn hot. Agree with that. You had Daboll and McDaniel at hot. Todd Bowles medium.
Exclamation point.
Yes. Todd Bowles medium and Zach Taylor mild. So I don't disagree with any of those other ones.
Let's do some first year guys.
I will say real quick, we had Billy Napier basically at shut the cluck up a few weeks ago. And that's not happening. So things can always change, which is just my point about Eberflus. So first-year coaches, because few of the struggling teams in the NFL are under first-year coaches, including the Titans. Let's not beat around the bush. Brian Callahan at 2-8.
Medium. Like, I would be shocked if he got fired after year one. I would be mostly shocked if he got fired after year one because she's still paying Mike Vrabel a ton of money and still paying John Robinson a ton of money. So for just economic purposes, I think it's wildly unlikely that Brian can. And nor do I think that he's like a lost cause. Like I have seen some progress there from him and his staff that is worth paying attention to. But they're still 2-8. And the expectations were set, I think it's fair to say, significantly higher. Like maybe not a playoff team, but pushing in a division that is, suspect coming in, that you have a lot of questions about. You spent a lot of money. You're doing this for the first time, I understand. Like I bet Todd Bowles is a better coach now than he was with the Jets. I bet that, plenty of these people who have been through multiple coaching jobs are better now for the experiences that they suffered during their first jobs. But I think I would put him at medium because this is, one, I think you have an owner that makes emotional decisions or an ownership group that makes emotional decisions. And and by the way, that's not specific to just here. Like I think Woody Johnson is out here making emotional decisions. There's plenty of ownership groups that do the things that we've seen Amy Adams Strunk and the ownership group for the Titans do previously. But I would give it a medium, right in the middle between, so southern and mild are the least hot levels. Hot, damn hot, shut the clock up. I'd put him squarely at medium, which is, though, above his former boss, Zach Taylor.
How bad, like when you think of first-year coaches to get fired recently in the NFL, who comes to mind? Like Nathaniel Hackett didn't even make it through his first season.
Hackett, Herb, you've got...
Herb, yeah.
different reasons. You've got Frank Reich, who didn't make it through that season with the Panthers.
Right.
Panthers are a wild card here, when we'll talk about Canales here in a second. Talk about the Texans with David Culley and Lovie Smith.
Yep.
Those are pretty recent. So yeah, there's a larger sample size than you would think of first-year coaches with, we'll call them erratic ownership groups for different reasons. A lot of different reasons there. Not one reason why these guys are being fired, either into their first season or at the end of their first season. But it's a larger group than you would, I think, realize.
I think my point is the Texans, such a unique situation where nobody thought Culley or Lovey were going to be long-term. This is the vision of the Texans.
It all felt like a sham the whole time.
The whole time. Mad Preacher calling the shots, all of those things. So with guys like Hackett and Herb, when first-year coaches get fired, after or before the end of their first year, things are bad, and they are bad across the board. Locker room, a quarterback situation, toxicity, everything. And that was definitely the case with Urban.
Credit card and co-eds.
Yeah, definitely. Urban's the prime example of that, where you just have to end it. And Nathaniel Hackett, it was just an abject disaster. So obviously, the on-field results have been an abject disaster with the Titans. This is not the season that we looked at mock drafts before the season that had the Titans with the top 5 pick and said, what are they smoking?
Field Yates said they had the 4th overall pick and going with Shador, and we said, these fools.
Yeah.
We also drank the Kool-Aid, and we're sorry.
I will say
I'm sorry.
I'm not there every day like you are, but I don't get the sense that things are that bad in that building with players and the relationship with Callahan and losing belief and all of those things.
No, the place where it feels the most rocky is front office. Like that's where the largest source of discontention or discontentment feels like it's emanating from. Now, what that results in, I have no earthly idea. I really don't know what happens with the Titans front office structure. I'm just kind of keeping myself, head on a swivel as far as that goes. But I would agree with you that locker room wise, like it's after games when they lose, and they've done a lot of losing, like it's a miserable place. But like I'm heading over there later today. On Wednesdays, it's fine. Like you got Chig and Wiley playing ping pong and being loud. You got, Tavondre Sweat shooting Papa shot and Latham chirping at him like they're
no one wants to hear it, but they're fighting in games, right? Like the Jags are sitting there folding.
They fought this Sunday. To their credit, they had more fight in that game than I may have given them credit for, and some of that is Will Levis to his credit as well. So I would say that there is the worst vibes with the Titans right now are front office centric than they are coaching.
More so than coaching.
More so.
Gerard Mayo is 3-8. And this is more expected what the Patriots are doing.
Yeah, and May looks better.
Yeah.
Like they look like they have something, but we also thought that Will Levis looked like he might have something, and then we got ahead of ourselves on that, clearly. I have him at mild because Bob Kraft loves him.
Yeah.
There was some level of expectation. Like everybody understood that the Pats were going to be bad this year. And, you got Mayo calling them soft. You've got Belichick disagreeing. Like there are some things there that are interesting, some dynamics there that are interesting. And, Giardi was on that week that the Titans and the Patriots played talking about how Mayo's demeanor or how he's handled press conferences has obviously changed now that they are so bad, one of the worst teams in the league. But I would put him in the same category as Zach Taylor. I would put him at mild.
I agree. Dave Canales, 3-7 with the Panthers. Year one.
Medium just because of who he works for.
Yeah.
I don't trust David Tepper at all.
So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coaches that you have at damn hot or shut the cluck up in terms of the hot seat.
Stefanski, McCarthy, Pierce, damn hot, Eberflus, Peterson, shut the cluck up.
Yeah. Could be an interesting coaching carousel. We just had a wild one in the NFL last offseason, and we'll see how it ramps up down the tail end of this year. But with what we just listed, could be 5 or more jobs open. And that maybe,
and there's always one that you're not going to expect, right?
That could be on the low end.
Like the McDaniel thing, I think could be in there. You know what I'm interested in? So can I just give you everybody that I've got based on just quickly, because I do think that there's some interesting discussions here before the segment ends. So I've told you who I've got in Shut the Cluck Up and Damn Hot. Hot is, to me, McDaniel with the Dolphins, Daboll with the Giants. Medium, Callahan, Canales, Sirianni, and Bowles. I think that any coach of the Philadelphia Eagles should either just be in medium or hot. It doesn't matter.
They're one of the hottest teams in the league.
Okay,
in a good way.
And how many weeks ago was he in shouting matches with his fans?
For sure. I
think the Eagles' job just perpetually exists as medium or hot.
If they were to collapse and flame out in the first round and he got fired, would any of us be shocked? But they are playing really good football.
Yeah, so I would put Sirianni in there and Bowles. Then mild, Taylor, Steichen, McVay, Mayo, Shanahan, McDonald.
Yeah, we didn't bring up Steichen, but there is improvement from Anthony Richardson, which we'll talk about
And
today.
honestly, the only reason I don't have McVay in Southern is because I think he may just, Amazon may offer him more money again than he's making right now, may offer him the Godfather offer and him say, yeah, this is way better. Because he's talked pretty publicly about that before, him considering these TV jobs. And then there's 13 guys that I have in the Southern category.
Yeah, the untouchables.
Completely safe.
Andy Reid and Harbaugh and Tomlin.
Sean Payton, Tomlin,
Dan
O'Connell.
Campbell,
Both Harbaughs,
Yeah. Almost half the league is in that Southern category.
That's where we're at. 615-737-1045. Chris is up next. Hey, Chris.
Hello. Hey, man. How are you?
Good.
Good. So I completely disagree with Lucas there. I'm sorry. Eberflus is a dead man walking, and it makes me want to walk in front of traffic more than the Titans do.
Please don't, just because I heard cars in the background of wherever you are.
No, I'm not. I'm driving, talking to you on the Bluetooth.
Be safe.
I wouldn't actually do it, man. But
okay, I don't know.
I'm just saying, Eberflus is a dead man walking and needs to be replaced. I'll shut up and listen. Y'all have a good day.
Okay, thank you. That's a good exclamation point on the segment.
No, vibes are not great in Chicago.
Vibes are bad. Vibes are real bad. Coming up next, young quarterback development. Speaking of the Chicago Bears, the Tennessee Titans also going through some inexperienced quarterback development. You've seen improvement league-wide, though, from some of these players that we've talked about. So we'll talk about that and also Will Levis within that context coming up next.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The latest college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday night. Tennessee dropped from number 7 to number 11 after the 31-17 loss to Georgia on Saturday. The Vols are the first team out of the bracket as it stands today due to BYU being the highest-ranked Big 12 team behind the Vols in the ranking. The Titans are back on the practice field today, getting ready to visit the Houston Texans Sunday. Quarterback Will Levis will meet with the media coming up at 2:05. The Nashville Predators continue their road trip tonight at the Seattle Kraken, a 9 p.m. puck drop. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour is upon us. Thanks for hanging out on this Wednesday. We're happy to have you. We got some phone calls to take. We'll do it here in just a second. 615-737-1045. F&M Bank Chat also available. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you're live streaming the show today, thanks for doing so. So there's been a lot of discussion around quarterback development in the NFL. Whether we as a, I say we as a league, the royal we, the NFL, is failing these players at a higher rate than ever before. And the consensus, or almost consensus on that, has been yes. It's more the fault of the organizations who are lacking patience with not just these quarterbacks, but also with the coaches who draft them, because never have coaches been fired at a higher rate than they are in the league in the last couple of years, and never have we turned over quarterbacks the way that we are in the league right now. There's been progress because, as most people expect, when you play more football, you start to become more skilled at what it is you're doing. Whether it's sufficient or not is an entirely different debate, but we are seeing progress, I would say, almost across the board from a lot of these first-year or second-year quarterbacks, guys whom you may not consider young necessarily, for example, Levis, but you would consider inexperienced. Some who are just young and haven't played a lot of football like Richardson. The rookies are obviously a different case where you have 6 first-rounders this year, not all of them playing. Is this the first week that we've seen Michael Penix?
No, I think he's gotten snaps.
Preseason for sure. But I don't recall seeing him play in a regular season game.
No, he had gotten snaps previously. But
Either way.
He did come in because they were getting destroyed.
So you've got different circumstances that all lead you to the quarterback development question that we're talking about.
He had only appeared in one game against the Seahawks where he attempted one pass.
Now, if I asked you how many NFL teams out of 32 you thought would have new starting quarterbacks, or not necessarily new, but different starting quarterbacks. Like the quarterback could be on the roster, in the example of Penix and Kirk Cousins. Out of 32, how many would you guess?
Next season?
Next season.
Oh, out of 32. Oh, without looking at every situation, at 8, 9?
I'd say probably somewhere between 10 and 12. To be honest with you. Now, maybe I'm going a bit high. Maybe I'm going as much might, because I do think that there's some logic to potentially starting. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the quarterback in Atlanta next year, but there is some school of thought too. Okay, well, Aaron Rodgers fell off a cliff. From a performance standpoint.
Yeah, I'm leaving room for Bryce Young to continue to improve a little bit, and the Panthers say, let's stick with our number 1 overall pick for another season. Same with Anthony Richardson, right? Same, a lot of guys that have been. Will Levis was written off by us, by a lot of people, Titans fans, midseason, and Levis has taken like 2 steps in that direction that you want to see, but you don't know what steps he's going to continue to take and in what direction he'll take them. There's still 6 games left in the season? 7 for the Titans.
Yeah. So I would say, right now, let's just take, things can change, right? because of examples like Levis or examples like Bryce Young, there can be a different conversation in Week 12 than there is in Week 18. But I'm going to consider the Titans one of the teams that is more likely than not to have a different starting quarterback, whether Levis is on the roster or not. I do think that right now they belong squarely in that category. I would also consider that the Jets are more likely, if Woody Johnson is already talking about or has already floated the idea before firing his coach that wouldn't do it, of benching Aaron Rodgers. I think that's squarely in play. Obviously, the New York Giants belong in this conversation. I think the Vikings probably will too, but we'll see what they do with J.J. McCarthy. I think that the Raiders are on the table here, and I think that the Browns should be on the table here. Those are the 6 teams that I think in Week 12 are obvious, they are going to have or are most likely to have a different player at quarterback. But again,
did you include the Giants?
I did include the Giants. So just to rehash, Titans, I think Jets, Giants, Vikings, Panthers, and I would say 7. Browns and Raiders included in that conversation as well. But this is in Week 12. Again, reserve the right to change these opinions based on, does Bryce Young do something that makes meaningful progress? Does Will Levis do something that equates to meaningful progress? The ones that are obvious are teams like the Browns, where you have the excuse to keep Deshaun Watson out of the lineup. Do not put him back in there at quarterback unless you just don't care about winning.
And the Giants are as obvious as it gets that experience is over with Daniel Jones.
Very, very loud.
Bryce Young in his last 2 games is 31 of 51 for 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and has won back-to-back games as the starting quarterback for the first time in his career after sitting on the bench for Andy Dalton.
Progress. Would you say he has taken greater steps? Now, I will not tell you that I've watched a bunch of Bryce Young since he's been back in the lineup.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I haven't gotten to the Panthers, if I'm being honest, on teams that I have to pay attention to for like the podcast with Greg, for example. But I mean, he has translated, the progress has helped them translate to wins, which is not something that we have yet seen from Levis. Again, Bryce Young doesn't have to be the only reason. He's likely not the only reason. And I say this being somewhat ignorant of what Carolina has actually been able to do. So if anybody in the audience is a Carolina Panther and Carolina Panther fan and wants to correct me on this, you're welcome to do so. But quarterback wins are a flawed stat.
Yeah.
That is something that does matter, though. Does it help translate to a win? Will Levis's progress has not helped yet translate to a win, though there is reason to believe that they are close. Now, the level of competition down the stretch is pretty stiff, save the 2 Jags games on the schedule. And even then, I don't think that the expectation, based on what this team has done to date, I don't think that the expectation should be, well, they'll sweep the Jags. I think they're more likely to split than they are to sweep. No matter how much worse the Jags continue to get. And, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, do we expect him in the lineup anytime soon?
I think there's an expectation that he's back this week. I haven't seen the latest on Trevor Lawrence, so I'm not positive. The Jags, who do the Jags play this week? I don't know.
Okay. So you take these things in stride. I think it's okay to change your opinion week to week in conversations like this.
They're on a bye week.
They have a bye?
Jags are on a bye week.
So late. Well, I guess just the Titans had a week 5 bye, so everybody's bye after that feels
6 teams have a bye week this week.
That's crazy.
Some bad ones, too.
So, well, that's good for us. Then.
Jags.
Get them off the television.
Jets, Saints, Bengals, Falcons, and Bills are off this week.
Okay. Levis. Well, we'll save more of the bulk of the conversation around Levis for the time being. But now let's flesh this out even further and talk about these rookies. The rookie quarterbacks, honestly, have acquitted themselves quite well, which I think works as an indictment against the Levises, the Bryce Youngs of the world, because it's not like and the Commanders went through a significant overhaul, and the stench of Dan Snyder is no longer permeating everything that happens there, which does matter. But what the rookie quarterbacks have been able to do has been pretty impressive this year from those who have played. Now, I think the biggest one that you would take issue with is the number 1 overall pick, because he has shown you in spurts that he's got potential, but potential hasn't translated to consistent success yet. And they also have one of the worst offensive lines in football this year. So you understand that even though he went to a better situation than a lot of number one overall picks go to, that is still a team with clear and obvious flaws. Who has been the best rookie quarterback to date? Because Jaden Daniels has hit a bit of a ceiling in the last couple of weeks, but, Steelers defense is tough. Eagles played him tough on Thursday Night Football, even if they haven't been one of the best defenses in football.
Still the leader for Rookie of the Year.
Should be.
Yeah.
But Bo Nix is probably too.
Yeah, he was unbelievable on Sunday. 28 of 33, 307. That's an 85% completion percentage. 4 touchdowns, no picks, in a blowout win over Atlanta. He was phenomenal, and he has just steadily improved throughout the course of the year. He struggled early, their bad start. He had 2 picks in each of his first 2 games. He wasn't seeing things as well, but he picked it up quick. And he's got 6 interceptions on the year. 4 of them came in his first 2 games. But the way I simplify it in my mind is because all these guys have a different developmental path, right? Yep. Anthony Richardson finally had the best game of his career on Sunday against the Jets. 20 of 30, 272, which is a career high, a touchdown, 2 rushing scores, no turnovers. Just a few weeks ago when they benched him, it looked untenable. You could not you couldn't operate with him. Save for maybe you'll get a bomb 70 yards. That's just a wow throw, but he's not going to be able to operate otherwise. So which of these guys played meaningful, high-level college football, surrounded by elite talent, against elite talent, and which of these guys didn't? There's a correlation there. There just is. These rookies that have been impressive. Williams, I know, has had his struggles as of late. He's shown flashes. Obviously played high-level college football.
More than flashes. I don't think flashes does him justice.
You're saying he's shown more than that?
Yes.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels, right? Heisman winner. Had one of the best single seasons we have ever seen from a quarterback at LSU. And he steps in and he's leading for Rookie of the Year. Bo Nix played about 18 years of college football and was phenomenal at the end of his career at Oregon. No matter, what struggles he might have had early on at Auburn. We know the talent, former 5-star prospect, all of those things. All these rookies that are playing well at quarterback were playing legit high-level football for big-time programs.
And Drake May, you look at it and say, yeah, that's about right. Like the learning curve.
Exactly.
That's about right.
Exactly.
Because there was a bunch of people hand-wringing over things like his footwork coming out of college, and what's not a problem now. In fact, it's a strength. He looks pretty mechanically sound.
Yeah, but he's not lighting it up and like Bo Nix did on Sunday, like Jaden Daniels
and he's still making bad decisions like he did against the Titans.
He's a different developmental path. He was playing for North Carolina. He was playing solid football for North Carolina. Last year, why was it such a shock that C.J. Stroud was the best rookie out of that bunch? When C.J. Stroud was out there going blow for blow against Georgia, having an unbelievable performance, leading Ohio State to being on the cusp of a national championship.
Well,
when Richardson and Levis did not have any of those big-time performances in college, and it was just a traits thing with those guys.
No, I get what you're doing there, but he also broke rookie records that, like, Burrow and Herbert had held. Like,
we didn't expect it to be that good.
On a different, I understand your argument, and the argument is a sound one, but, like, he exceeded even those level of expectations that anybody playing high major college football would have.
No, he was amazing. But I'm just pointing out the correlations there. Yeah. All these guys that seemingly pick it up that early were doing it at an elite high level at the end of their college careers. Levis and Richardson were not.
Yeah.
It was a traits thing with them. It was a talent thing with them for the most part.
Yeah, we can get them there. We can get is the logic. And that's always, no matter how many times these things wash out and you say, well, surely the NFL will learn from their quarterback development mistakes in the past. No, people will always take chances on talent. I see some people in the comment section, or at least I see one person, and again, try not to extrapolate one person's opinion out to a majority or even a minority there. But D on YouTube says of C.J. Stroud, you can see him coming back down to earth. That ignores the fact that, one, they're playing a much tougher schedule than they did in 2023. Two, his receivers have missed a good chunk of time, and Stephon Diggs will miss the rest of the year. 3, his offensive line is coming off the best performance that they've had all year in Week 11. So there are some factors there to why C.J. Stroud, beyond just C.J. Stroud. And it can also be that it's harder for C.J. Stroud now because they've got legit tape on him and they can game. Defenses are good in the NFL too. They can make adjustments too. But it doesn't mean that C.J. Stroud is slumping necessarily. They're still a winning team at the top of their division and handling things in stride. We'll see what they do against the Titans this weekend. That will be an interesting game. 615-737-1045. We'll take more of your phone calls. We've got a few to get to coming up next. And also we'll talk about where Levis stacks in this category of improvement or the rate of improvement that we're seeing from specifically his draft classmates in Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
We should do that.
It was so long. On the record, I just want it known that I hate Burton Lucas very much. We're coming. Why is he in the store? Why is he still here? Send him home.
You turned your mic on prematurely.
No, what, the music playing is prematurely?
Just got to let it breathe a little bit.
What's so long?
I don't know. I don't even know what we were the TikTok he sent us about a lady tricking somebody into gobbling like a turkey over the phone.
He wants to do that with the listeners.
Trick people
it's a prank.
into doing something. Hey, we have this big prize for you if you do this impression of someone, and there not be a prize.
Did it not seem horribly cruel to that poor woman who sounded like she
terrible. That I didn't.
But you want to do that to our audience?
I don't. I didn't say I did. He wants to. He's also sending us cat AI videos.
AI needs to be stopped.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand.
Did you see the one with Trump and RFK and Elon eating the McDonald's?
Yeah,
and it turns into a whole different thing.
It's getting out of hand.
It's one of I don't know which one made me scared / laugh more. That one with the future president of the United States, or the one with Trump and Biden going back and forth about all the things that they could do if they were best friends together.
Yeah,
that one
skipping in the woods
sent me. Yeah, recreating like they were at a Renaissance fair together, dressed in like, a knight's outfit. It was ridiculous. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Taylor H says, why not just have a gobbling contest? Phrasing. That is not something that we will participate in. Maybe if you want to take that idea to Deja Vu, they can facilitate from there. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to get involved. So, we talked about young quarterback development, and we talked about, hey, turns out these guys can't do it in just a week or just a month or just a month and a half. We're 2 months into the season. You're starting 2.5 months into the season. You're seeing progress from the young / inexperienced quarterbacks and the direction that they're heading. And you're looking at Levis and saying, that was the vibe check this week. Last week, meh. 10-point loss to the Chargers. First game back after 3 weeks. The second one, Minnesota Vikings defense, good. Levis playing, pretty sound football and honestly kind of dealing at some points in that game, including the 98-yard touchdown. And so you're having this conversation, probably, maybe you are. I don't know what kind of conversations you're having with yourself. I don't know what goes on in your head. But I'm having the thought in my head, well, it's realistic to think that he may be on the roster in 2025 and 2026 because he's under contract and he's cheap. So let's flesh that out further to say not just on the roster, but is there a percentage chance that based on the incremental improvement, and again, 2 games is a tiny, tiny sample size, but it matters, where every evaluation opportunity matters, is there a percentage chance that they, not us, let's make it about the organization, that they could look at him and say, yeah, okay, maybe we can make this work again. Or maybe we can continue to improve this. Because it's one thing to talk about how you and I feel about it or how the audience feels about it or anybody within the sound of our voices or watching us on Zone TV today. But for them, it's a much different evaluation. It would tie them to him in ways that I don't know that they necessarily want to be tied to him. Because if you say, okay, we can do this with Levis again, if you're Brian Callahan, for example, let's just this hypothetical world. By the way, he's speaking at the podium right now. We'll let you know if he says anything of note. If the front office, if Rand and Brinker and Robinson and everybody else, Anthony Robinson, not John, go to Brian Callahan and say, all right, we've made our evaluation on the quarterback. Let's ask the coach. And the coach says, okay, yeah, we mess around and find out for another year. That more directly ties Brian Callahan to Will Levis than has ever happened. And that the risk of that alone, I don't think this coaching staff is in a position to take. It would have
to be a really dramatic turnaround from Levis individually over these next 7 games. Because I see it a lot, Callahan getting criticism for He took this job because he believed Levis could be a franchise quarterback, right? That he sold us on. No, he took the job. It's an NFL head coaching job. And
That's
he saw
the
a quarterback,
biggest reason he took the job.
And he saw a quarterback with traits, right? I mean, Brian Callahan was not Ben Johnson. He was not in the business of turning down jobs for better fits. Obviously, it clicked in the meetings and everything. They didn't let him leave the building and all that stuff. But I agree with you that running it back with Levis next year would further tie Callahan to Will Levis, which is not necessarily the case at this moment.
No, it's very much not. Now you have the out. Now you if you're Brian Callahan, and I'm not saying that this is how they're thinking, but I do think that there's reason to believe that this is the thought process. You just bide your time. You show that you can make it work with a quarterback that may not be able to make it work or make it work well enough. Like you can show enough as a staff with this quarterback, and then you say, okay, reset the board. And you don't tie yourself to this player. And you give yourself some maneuverability here, because to run back Levis as a starter, as a coach that right now has 2 wins and has struggled to get those, well, Miami wasn't a struggle, but the Dolphins were a JV team at the time. But you beat who you beat, right? You beat the Patriots, you beat the Dolphins, okay. You back yourself unnecessarily into a corner, even by agreeing to try it with Levis in 2025. Not by keeping him on the roster. That does you no harm. You can say, yeah, we'll keep Levis, but we'll try to really address the quarterback position, or we'll again try to address the quarterback position. I mean, the ideal scenario, truly, and I know Titans fans probably don't feel this way, but the best possible case scenario is that he figures it out, Levis.
Of course it is.
That's the best possible scenario. And even if he's still figuring it out and you're losing, but he figures it out enough, brother, you need right tackle, you need a pass rusher, you need a wide receiver, you probably need a corner for how suspect this year has been with the 2 guys that you paid. I mean, what is it? It's damn near $30 million in average annual salary on those 2 contracts between Cheeto and Snead. You have a million different issues on this roster still that need to be addressed, and resetting at the quarterback would only delay your path to relevancy and competency. I think a rookie quarterback is one of the least viable scenarios, if I'm being honest. If you're talking about the way that NFL coaches and GMs are being cycled through right now, I almost think you have to go get a vet for no other reason, whether it's with Levis or without Levis. I think you have to just find the best path to winning right now.
Which doesn't mean you absolutely cannot draft a quarterback.
No, it does not. It does not rule it out entirely. You could do the options are multiple here. Option 1. Maybe not the best option, but let's just say option 1. Levis works out. Levis is on the roster. Levis can get another year to start. Option 1. And you bring in a vet, another backup, like Mason on a 1-year deal.
Or a rookie. A rookie.
Well, a rookie means that you're moving on from Levis eventually.
A rookie kind of gives you another fallback, right? Like a rookie bringing in another guy like Mason Rudolph, or just keeping Mason Rudolph, would just be kind of running it back to where, and then if it sputters again with Levis, then that's it.
That's what I'm saying. Option 1, run it back.
Whereas having a rookie behind him kind of extends that lifeline a little bit. Right. Like, see what this guy's got.
Option 1, run it back. Option 2, Levis and a rookie. Option 3, a rookie and a vet.
Yeah.
Option 4, just flip-flop it. A vet that starts and a rookie so I guess you could lump those both in with option 3. But it depends on what you think of that rookie and how soon you're trying to get that rookie in the lineup. Are you looking at him as a day 1 starter if you take him with the number 1 and number 2 overall pick? Probably so. You're probably going to throw him out there more often or sooner rather than later. We're in agreement on that, yeah?
And the chips are in at that point.
At that point, yeah. That's your guy. That's who you ride or die with at that point. But it is something that I think has a variety of different options that can still be explored even if you're biding your time with Levis. And I do think that the school of thought right now is, okay, let's just wait it out with Levis. And let's do enough with Levis to not get fired. And then let's try and reset the board as much as humanly possible. Now, to him, because I saw a comment from Henry. Let me scroll back up here on YouTube, who says Buck has switched from trade this man to he could be on the roster after one game. And I would say, no, I haven't switched just based off one game, but I do reserve the right to change my opinion after each game that he plays. And I do reserve the right to present a variety of different options on the table, one of which I think if you are exploring the rookie quarterback path, I think it makes the most sense to trade him. But you are not obligated to follow the rookie quarterback path. I'm just saying if you are, then moving him to try and secure the best possible draft capital and further address the needs on the roster makes more sense than keeping him with a rookie. Because somebody will give you something. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to jump in, let's go to Harmon next.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
I have a disagreement with you on one of your coaching heat levels. The Brian Daboll one where you've got him as, I believe you said hot.
Yeah.
I think he should be a shut the cluck up. And really, it's mainly because the last two he had a good season that first year, got lucky, made the playoffs, but ever since then it's been a train wreck. And as a matter of fact, I'd be willing to bet that him and the general manager are both on their way out, and they're both examples of just because you served under a successful reclamation project in Buffalo doesn't mean that you know what you're doing.
Well, I do agree that the general manager should be fired, if for no other reason than that Saquon deal alone, right? Like letting Saquon go, having that conversation on record on HBO for the entire world to see, and then him going to the Eagles and killing you.
Yeah, and having a career year, looking like a new man.
And you could make the argument that he wouldn't do that in New York because they're still terrible.
He wouldn't be doing this in New York.
No, he would not.
Absolutely not.
So,
but still, yeah, I think I could see that situation that Harmon lays out there. It would be a surprise if New York just decided to run it back with everybody.
With everybody, for sure. But I honestly would be more inclined to think that Daboll is safer than the general manager there, just for the optics alone of the Saquon deal. Let's go to Mike up next.
Hello, folks.
Hey.
So, what was that option one again you were talking about just a few minutes ago?
Say that again, Mike. Your phone line's not great.
Oh, I'm sorry. Option one you were talking about.
Option one is run it back.
Yeah. I think that's okay there, in my opinion. But
you're okay with running it back with Levis and Rudolph or somebody Rudolph-esque?
Just kind of keep it like it is. Get, somebody on the right on the offensive line, a couple more good players, receiver, pass rusher, that kind of thing.
Why are you in favor of option one, Mike? Is there a specific reason?
Like you guys think you're just gonna have to restart all over and go through the same old problems. So just ride it out, see what happens.
I appreciate the call, Mike.
There would have to be a lot of improvement from here to go with option one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if the season ended today, I feel like you'd be pretty far from going, let's just run it back, right? Just get a right tackle.
Option one changes everything because option one means that he's done something of pretty considerable consequence and that he's made everybody look a hell of a lot smarter at that point than he did, for the last 3 months, essentially. Because his success, Callahan's not tied to him, but Rand is, whether you want to be or not. Like, I get it. You toss the Vrabel thing in there, or somebody will say, well, Amy Adams-Strunk had more say on Levis than either of them, or something like that. But the general manager that drafted him is most directly tied to him. The front office that drafted him, let's say, is most directly tied to him. I will... Somebody told me, and it's just one person, but somebody over there told me that this current coaching staff had Hendon Hooker graded higher than Will Levis, and the things what that made me feel in my body, I was just like, oh God, please don't let that get out there.
He has kind of gotten buried under that group of first and second year quarterbacks because of how well Jared Goff is playing, and Goff doesn't look like he's at the end of the rope anytime soon. He is the guy up there. So that is a curious question. What does Detroit do with Hooker? Do they trade him for a team needing a young quarterback that has talent, has had some time to develop.
Because how old's Goff? Is Goff even 30?
Oh, yeah.
Is he?
He's definitely, I was drafted in 2015.
I don't think of him as that old.
He is, he's 30. Okay, fair enough. He turned 30 a month ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess he was really young when he was drafted number 1 overall in 2016. He played his last year of college football.
Yeah, but think about that. Jared Goff took damn near a decade to get there, right? Like, definitively get there.
Well, he got to a Super Bowl along the way, but I understand the situation he was in.
Yeah, but even then, his coach was questioning Sean McVay basically ran him out of town.
But interesting kind of crossroads for the Lions. Great problem to have and situation to be in. Do we let our guy sit and develop, and maybe in year 4 or 5 of his career, he gets his shot like a Jordan Love? That's worked out pretty decent in Green Bay. It's worked out a lot over the years in Green Bay, letting the guy actually sit behind the starter. Or do we get something and just really go all in on this window? I don't know. It's an interesting thing because he's just kind of buried up there, just plugging along, healthy, and just trying to develop in Detroit.
Chris is next. Hey, Chris.
Hey, gentlemen. Good afternoon. Sorry for the wait. Listen. I've got to mention this because I'm right on target with y'all with developing this crew. Look at if we want to build a Kansas City, and you saw what they did with Mahomes, and they sat him behind. Was it Alex Smith until it was his time to shine? And then look at the contracts that they had. You had a rookie quarterback. They got enough talent on the edges. They built up the trenches in the defense, and that's how you go win a Super Bowl. That's your playoff winning recipe. The problem is that we're not even in that window. The window we're in is figure out who your pieces are and then go find that talent. But I'd love to hear your opinion on where do you guys think we are? Are we in a window where we can go grab and go in? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, guys.
I think they thought they were, and they realized they had no idea how much further away. And listen, the NPF catastrophe, and I don't think it's anything short of a catastrophe.
It is a catastrophe.
There's no way that any of us would have foreseen that. You looked at him in his rookie year, and he said, "Okay, Dennis Daly is taking a lot of heat off this guy because Dennis Daly is objectively awful, but he's a rookie." Maybe he gets him. He's a 16-game starter. I don't think he started every game, but I think he started 16 games his rookie year. You wash out last season because of the suspension and the injury right after. So you looked at him and said, "This is a third-round pick." I don't know. Has Blaine talked about this on air? Mm-hmm. And Blaine, and forgive me, I haven't heard it. I just heard it secondhand through you. He said that this is a very specific example of how badly this has gone.
We talked about it Monday, and not to speak for Blaine, he would say it much more eloquently than me. Just to paraphrase, like something's wrong. This is not normal. Yeah. This is not just a player playing below standard. Like this, and now this is me talking, not Blaine.
Yeah.
This looks like a player that's just not up for it.
Yeah.
Like something is there.
Like Sadiq Charles kind of weirdness, right?
Right. Like you don't want to sit there and say he doesn't care, he doesn't love the game, but he has given people no option other than to say, okay, clearly you're not serious about this, because how can you go from that to this? He wasn't good his rookie year, but like you said, last year a wash. Stands to reason Bill Callahan, most of the tape he watched on NPF was from rookie year, and if Bill Callahan sees that and says, oh, we can work with that, yeah.
I can fix him.
Yes. And it's gone in the complete opposite direction.
It's a third-round pick. This is not some slap, right? Yeah. This is not Leroy Watson at 26 years old making his first career start like 4 games into a year.
It's gotten like Dillard levels bad. And it's not a direction any of us thought. Even as little as anybody might have thought about NPF, nobody would have seen this. I mean, it is a catastrophe.
You thought you were free. You thought you were done with it.
That's what I thought I was in.
Andre Dillard and a different number, baby. Oof. More of your phone calls coming up next. Last call for them. We'll update some polls. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is a great resource for guys. They've been a great resource for guys for over a decade for people who are dealing with ED and the pills have stopped working. If you feel like hope is lost, do not feel that way before you speak to the Tennessee Men's Clinic, because they have all manner of different protocols and options to get you back and operating again. They have access to multiple protocols and options, like I mentioned, to treat your ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. So don't trust your health to an online pharmacy and don't feel like you are out of options. We want you to understand all the options available to you when it comes to ED treatment. The Tennessee Men's Clinic protocols are patient-centered and customized to your needs. They have treatments for everything from low testosterone, ED, treatments that increase size and stamina, and everything else in between. The bottom line is no one has more expertise and experience in successfully treating men's sexual health issues than the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and they are passionate about what they do. So schedule an appointment online today or call them at 615-208-9090. The website, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Last call for phone calls if you got them. So, all the discussion about the catastrophe at right tackle that is Nicholas Petit-Frere. What is the latest update from Brian Callahan at the podium?
Brian Callahan says Nicholas Petit-Frere is going to start at right tackle on Sunday in Houston.
Hate that.
You cannot make this stuff up. We were not planning on talking right tackle today, and it just kind of devolved into that, and we finished the last segment talking about NPF and just how catastrophic it's been.
Why?
And during the break,
the only excuse is Leroy Watson's going to miss another game.
During the break, Brian Callahan tells the media he will start.
Well, I'm sure Danielle Hunter is excited about that. I'm sure Danico Autry is excited about that. Is Will Anderson back in the lineup for them?
He was inactive on Monday night. I don't know if he'll be back on Sunday.
Short week, tough.
We've not talked about Danico Autry against former teams and how much the Titans benefited from that against the Colts.
Oh, they are so banged. There have been a couple of times this season that I've outright pitied Will Levis. I feel bad for Will Levis on Sunday.
But we said that going into the Vikings game, and he was solid.
No, the Vikings don't have Danico Autry. The vengeful Danico Autry.
That's true.
Is a different creature entirely. So Prince just, I mean, he gave him the best snaps at right tackle they've had all season, and the illegal procedure thing was enough for them to be like, nah, get the blink.
I don't know. I don't know if there was a follow up there for Callahan.
So help me God. All right, let's go to Patrick up next.
Hey, Buck.
Yo.
I was just calling in about the Levis thing. What I'm going to say, don't excuse his issues start the season, the bad fumbles and everything like that. But, you got to look at him. I think he gets a raw deal in some ways. He's come in basically, I know you don't like the word rookie, but it's almost like a rookie come in to a new coaching staff, learning a new scheme, got new players around him, and he's got a sketchy old line, especially right tackle. So I kind of feel like in some ways he gets a raw deal because this is kind of his first year because everything's brand new to him. And another thing, the coaching staff in the front office, when it comes to the draft, has got to ask, is any of these rookies going to give us a better chance to win in the second year than Levis will? Because he may, if he continues to do good, second year in the same scheme with the same players, he may look better. And also, this coaching staff needs to do something with MPF, start Raditz if you have to at right tackle. He's definitely the better option on the team at right tackle, and put somebody at right guard. But that's all.
Thank you for the call, Patrick. We appreciate. What?
So abrupt.
No, it's too late now.
You started it over.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Not you, Patrick. Thank you for the call. I don't entirely disagree that he's gotten a bit of a raw deal, but also he's welcome to overcome it the way that a lot of quarterbacks over. And I know it feels like an impossibly unfair standard, but I mean, that's the standard that NFL quarterbacking is at right now. You are going to have to overcome some circumstances. One of the biggest criticisms of Levis coming out of college was that he did not necessarily excel, but he was better. He was above average only when his surroundings were above average. And that's kind of the sticking point with him. We'll get one last call in for, and quickly about the offensive line thing. He has been asked, Callahan, I don't know if Bill's been asked, but I know Brian has been asked about moving Radins out, which is the thing that not a single NFL coaching staff wants to do based on 3 different offensive line coaches that Dylan Radins has had and 2 different head coaches. Nobody wants to play Radins at tackle. They have their reasons. They also don't feel like it's fair where he's just started to vibe a little bit at guard to displace him that way and potentially make him worse. So they're trying to be fair to Dylan Radins in that spot. Gerald, last call of the day.
I just had a question about how did the Vols not make the playoffs?
Well, the season's not over, Gerald.
Yeah, I mean, it's the third one. What do you mean?
But I keep seeing on when people post it, and I've seen it on TV. They keep saying the first team out, the second team out. I'm just not.
Well, yeah, they are the first team out, and according to the third iteration of the rankings, but we've got like a month ago.
He's asking why are they ranked in the top 12. And
why did they drop?
Gerald, they are ranked 11th, which I understand. The confusion is they're ranked in the top 12.
Yeah.
Why are they not in the playoff? Mm-hmm. They're number 11. Gerald, they are the first team out because there are automatic bids given to the 5 highest-ranked conference champions, and that includes the highest-ranked Big 12 team. BYU is ranked behind Tennessee in the ranking, but as of right now, they get that automatic bid because they are the highest-ranked Big 12 team. So that's why Tennessee is not in the bracket at the moment.
Gotcha. Okay, now that makes more sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pulse.
Polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Most people saying Buck for his Nick Westbrook-Akine take yesterday, and that's the majority of it.
Easy enough.
Okay. Which young quarterback looks like they have turned the corner the most this season? 62% say Will Levis. 20.3% say Bryce Young. 17.5% say Anthony Richardson.
Okay, bias. Just pure and obvious bias. None of you can be trusted. This is why the Twitter polls don't mean anything.
Richardson was fantastic last weekend.
Excellent.
And they won.
You know how good they have been just with or without him with explosive plays? They're one of the most explosive offenses in football this year.
What are you most angry about from last night's CFP rankings? Tyler says Mizzou losing and not dropping a single place so that Bama's win over them is still considered a ranked win. I don't know if that's the reason, but yeah, what are we doing with Missouri still ranked? Like at every turn, they've just showed us what
I wanted them out of like the first 3 AP polls.
Yeah, come on. Steven says BYU being still in consideration after losing to Kansas at home. They're the highest ranked Big 12 team. Big 12's got to get somebody in. That's just how this works. Could be Colorado. If they win out and they'll play BYU in the conference championship, then it'll be Colorado. That's in if they win the conference. Kevin says Bama being ranked over Tennessee despite the same record and having lost head-to-head. Alabama does have a better overall resume than Tennessee, and the committee is taking recent and current form into consideration here. So that's all a part of it.
I mean, it literally doesn't matter to me every week. I take the rankings as they come out, and then we talk about them, and I don't assign any meaning to the people making these actual decisions.
How much would Indiana need to lose by against Ohio State to drop out of the college football playoff? 37% say 17 or more. 31.6% say 21 or more. 18.6% say 10 or more. 12.6% say any amount, any loss, and they're done.
No, I don't think it's that.
I don't think so either.
Line is at 13.5.
Last I saw.
I think Ohio State would have to cover to knock
I think they would have to cover
Indiana out of the playoff. 2 scores feels right.
I'm with that. And context matters, right? If it's 17-17 at half like Tennessee-Georgia, if the game plays out like Tennessee-Georgia did last weekend and it ends up still being Ohio State covering 31-17, I don't know that Indiana really plummets that far if Ohio State gets a garbage time touchdown to make it a 14-point game. I don't know. I think Ohio State would have to roll them for Indiana truly to be out of the picture.
I don't care about the playoff rankings until they slide Indiana, and then I will go nuclear.
Who gets fired?
Wednesday morning.
Who gets fired first, Doug Peterson or Mike McCarthy? 76.5% say Doug Peterson.
I can't believe he's still got a job.
They are on a bye week. This would have been an opportune time.
This would have been an ideal time.
Those are the polls.
All right, very good. That's the show. Thanks for hanging out. Heading out to practice. You can get more Lucas with Blaine Bishop. Coming up next, we'll see what Will Levis has to say. I know they'll carry that press conference. If not, I'll talk to you tonight on Primetime.